If you've been in downtown Denver recently, you can't help but notice one of the many homeless camps lining the sidewalks.
Neighbors say this is a situation that's out of control.
Neighbors across Portland and the region are dealing with homeless encampments.
Action is needed to solve Southern California's ever-expanding homeless crisis.
How do we get here? Homelessness across the country has gotten to be to the point where it has exploded. It's been a problem in California and major cities for quite some time, but it isn't just in these major cities that it's become an issue. So today we're going to be taking a close look at America's homeless problem. And I know you're probably thinking, why is a real estate agent talking about this? Because it's a direct correlation to affordable housing and the affordable housing crisis. The more the homes go up, the more we're going to see a lot more people becoming homeless. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the solutions that have come up, not just here in the United States, but in other countries as well. So maybe this could be a way that we can implement it in our local areas. And we can force some of these politicians to do something about it instead of just giving us a bunch of lip service. They love doing that. So let me just bring you to the reason why I decided to make this video in the first place. I recently had a deep conversation with a family member over the holidays about homelessness. And their immediate reaction was, well, they choose to be homeless. And then their next thing was, they're just a bunch of drug addicts anyways. And then the next comment was, they're lazy and they don't want to work. And that's why they decided to be homeless. And I'm like, that can't be the only reason. You know, you can't really think that. And they were like, well, a good portion of them are. And I'm like, well, let's break that down. They choose to be homeless. People choose to be homeless. And yes, there is a group of people that like that nomad lifestyle and they will always remain homeless. But I wouldn't say that's the good portion of people that are homeless. Then we have the people that are drug addicts. Yes, it's obvious. There's a good portion of people that are on the streets that are drug addicts. And that ties into a lot of other social issues. I mean, we don't have enough medical facilities for people that have drug addiction problems. We don't have enough social programs when it comes to that. But of course, these people still have the need and the right to have a roof over their head. And one more thing that really burned my butt is that they're lazy. So let's just think about this for just a moment. And this is what got me really going with my family member. And when she said that they were lazy, I was like, wait 1 minute. She's like, there's plenty of jobs across the United States. Employers are begging for people to work for them. And I'm like, think about that though. You're homeless. You do not have a place to shower, brush your teeth, fill out a resume. You have nothing with you. I said, not only that, most likely those types of jobs are going to be paying them very minimum money. And she was like, well, a minimum wage job is like, what, $10 around here? $10 an hour, let's just say 38 hours a week is not enough for anybody to pay for rent. And you're thinking, well, they could get public programs and they can get Section 8. In some places, those vouchers for public housing, they're on a wait list for 5 years.
They say that we have a waiting list of 5 years, 4.5 is the least. One lady said, well, you might have a miracle, you know.
Obviously, this is a complex issue. And with the pandemic, it even made it even more complex. Not only that, home prices have gone up so much that a lot of people have no choice. And they've been getting kicked out of their apartments because the landlords have decided to sell.
And for 13 years, Linda Freed's East Mesa apartment has been home. By mid-November, the 78-year-old says she was told to get out by New Year's Eve.
I just don't know what to do.
Just like you saw in that clip with that poor woman who had been paying her rent all this time, all those years, and now she's getting thrown out of her home. This is what America's homelessness is going to start looking like a lot more as time goes on. So whatever you have thought about people being homeless, let's have a little bit more open mind that there is more to it than just the people that are drug addicts. The National Alliance to End Homelessness actually has some really good statistics when it comes to homelessness in the United States. We're not at the peak that we had in 2007 after the last housing crash, but it is steadily going up every single year, as you can see in this graph. And according to their website, in January of 2020, there were 580,466 people experiencing homelessness in the United States. Most were individuals, about 70%, and the rest were people living with families and children. This is one thing I want to point out when you think about people that are mentally ill or might have problems and that are living on the streets. That is the most forgotten group of people in the United States, as far as I'm concerned. It's in this website article as well. It said, finally, due to their service to our country, veterans are often analyzed separately from the larger group. They represent about 6% of the people experiencing homelessness. 6% of the homeless people living on the street have served our country. There should be safety nets for these people. No veteran that has served our United States military should ever be homeless. That should be top priority for all politicians, that they never slip through the cracks. It's obvious we have a really big problem, but there are some organizations that have been doing fantastic work in helping homelessness become a thing of the past. One of the organizations I want us to take a look at, and you may have heard me talk about it before, and it's called Community First, and it's right outside of Austin, Texas. So let me just show you their website. Mobile Loaves and Fishes is a leading unprecedented collaborative effort to mitigate homelessness in the city of Austin. This transformative community exists to care for and serve our friends who are coming out of chronic homelessness and earn a permanent place they can call home. Phase 1 of the village covers 27 acres. Once at full capacity, will be home for more than 200 formerly homeless men and women. The community features 100 RV parks, 130 micro homes, 5 laundry, restrooms, and shower facilities, 5 outdoor kitchens, a Capital Metro bus stop, community art, cinema, community concessions, catering, community first car care, community forge, and woodworking shop. It isn't just a community where they are just putting people in a shelter. They're giving people a home and a whole different chance at life. They even show you on their website how to apply for a home. To be eligible to live in the community first, you must be chronically homeless, and chronically homeless is defined as living in a place not meant for humans or habitation, a safe haven or emergency shelter for at least 1 year or 4 episodes within the past 3 years, and having at least one disability. Have been in Travis County for at least 1 year, so people can't just come in. And I know that many of you probably have seen this. Some of the major cities have been, in order to handle their homeless problem, they've been giving them bus tickets and sending them on a one-way trip to another city, so that city has to handle it. So I guess this is how they curb that problem. Another requirement is you have to be able to pay rent. This includes SSI, SSDI, working offsite or on-site employment through Community Works. In this community, they have like woodworking projects that they do, and even though they're learning a skill, they sell those projects. And then they have those kitchens, and they make all this bread and everything, and then they teach people how to do that. So they work for the community in order to keep going in the community. That's how they earn their money to live there, to purchase the houses that are in the community itself. It's like a whole community working together, but their plan is good and it's solid, and they've had enormous success with it. But of course, that is still a project that is growing, and it's growing probably faster than they probably wanted it to. It always needs some volunteers. It always needs some contributions. For more information, you can review their frequently asked questions on their website. So that's what Austin's been doing, and they've been doing fantastic stuff. But there's another state that's been doing some really great things when it comes to the homeless problem. As you can imagine, the state of Hawaii doesn't have a lot of places where they could build a 51-acre homeless community. But you can also imagine, with the cost of living and the cost of homes in Hawaii, it does leave a lot of people in a bad situation where they can't find an affordable housing option. Hawaii's homeless problem got so bad, it was one of the #1 states in the United States with a homeless problem per capita. But they have addressed the issue. And do you know how they did it? They built more affordable housing options. So let me show you this article that came from hawaiibusiness.com. Now, every county in Hawaii has different requirements, but Hawaii Community Development Authority in Kauai County requires certain new developments to provide at least 20% of affordable housing units, while Maui County requires 25%. Hawaii Island requires developers to provide enough affordable housing so that can earn affordable housing credits equal to 20% of the number of units or lots in each project. Now, Hawaii House Financing, a development corporation, 201H inclusionary policy requires 50% of housing units plus one in a project be affordable. The policy allows for expeditious review of eligible projects and exemptions from planning, zoning, and construction rules. Did it solve their problem altogether? No. But it made a huge dent in the amount of homeless that has been happening throughout Hawaii. Now, just recently, they have had an increase of more homelessness in Hawaii because, of course, just like everybody else, there's been a lot less building throughout their state. So if there's less building, there isn't enough units, and there still isn't enough affordable housing. It's not a perfect plan, but it's one way that they are tackling this homeless problem, and it was just to get them more affordable homes. They still have a long way to go, but don't we all?
This is how Los Angeles is dealing with homelessness. Building tiny homes with air conditioning and beds.
So I know that when you look at Hawaii and you see those little tiny homes that I just showed you in California, you're thinking, why can't we just build our way out of it? And yes, that sounds like a very simple way to get out of this, but there's a lot more to it than what you think. Even if a home builder had the vision today, it would take a minimum of 3 years to get that project to even start to be even close to completed. And we have a homeless problem right now. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that it's not like it can happen overnight. The bureaucracy that these people have to go through to come up with a development like that is crazy. First, the home builder has the idea. The second thing is you have to find a piece of land that allows you to do it. The next thing you have to do is make sure that that land is rezoned for affordable housing options. Then you have a whole 9-month process for the entitlement. So even if you found the piece of land, they agreed to the zoning, you still need to go through that whole entitlement process, and that can take 9 months. Then you have to find the investors that are willing to invest in it. And then you're going to have to also go through the government to get government subsidies for these affordable housing options. It's a super complicated process. It's a ton of red tape. And a lot of times for many builders, it's just not worth it. And when it comes to regular traditional home building, they can make a lot more money in a very shorter period of time. It would take a very special builder who had the time, patience to want to do something like that, because it really is a lot of work. So I don't blame home builders. I blame the bureaucracy and the red tape that it takes for them to be able to build affordable housing options. Another thing is too, many people in these areas, when it comes to going through this whole entire process of getting the land, once they find out it is for affordable homes or affordable housing options, a lot of people in their local community lose their freaking tops that they're going to have these homes around their expensive houses. And they think immediately, oh my gosh, it's going to bring down my property value. What kind of people are going to be living there? I think the tides are changing though. I think more people are looking and understanding and seeing how much home prices are going up. So people are a little bit more open to the idea of having more affordable homes in their area. I don't think it's the same as it was maybe, 20 years ago.
Now Mayor Hancock wants to turn more hotels and motels into housing for people in need.
Did you know there is a country that's pretty much almost eradicated homelessness? I wouldn't say 100% eradicated, but this country has the lowest amount of homelessness per capita in the world. Do you know what country that is? I'll give you a second. It's Finland. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Finland's as big as a state. I mean, come on. But Finland had a huge homeless problem, and they were willing to take on the world to figure this out, because they don't, just like us, we don't want to see people on the streets. We don't want to have to climb over trash. We don't want to see people pooping in the streets. And so this is a problem that they were willing to tackle, and they did it like this. According to bigissue.com, the idea is simple enough. People experience homelessness are offered a place to live and open-ended support to help them tackle their demons and adapt an independent life. The Finns didn't come up with the model. Its origins can be traced to New York City in the 1990s. Street homelessness is virtually non-existent in the Nordic country, and homelessness has been decreasing since 2013. Statistics show few Finns fall in the homelessness for a long-term period. That is why the number of cabinet ministries and mayors and homeless experts traveled from the UK to Finland in recent years to see what lessons they can take away now that the big issue is being followed. Such long-term success of the Housing First in Finland over the last few decades, attention is now turned towards helping people into work. Employment opportunities such as cleaning and clearing snow are open to tenants, offering them a chance to boost up skills and gain vital experience from a wage. Much like the mobile loaves and fishes that I showed you in Austin, Texas, same kind of idea. They say the idea is that you can totally live independently. So if Finland can do it, we can do it too. So the idea is really simple. Offer more affordable homes, get them into a house, people live independently, and then they're productive members of society. It's very simple, but it seems to be the hardest thing that we can tackle here in the United States currently. I know that if you made it this far along in the video, you're probably going, this is going to cost taxpayers a ton of money. And yes, it will not necessarily as much as you think though. I found an article from globalgiving.org, and it says, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it will cost $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. But the US government spent $718 billion on its military in 2019, and it certainly wasn't to help homeless vets with that $718 million. So before we buy another plane or help another country with their homeless problem and by giving them money? Why don't we take that $20 billion from the military budget and help our homeless here in the United States? I would love to say that the United States did that with that $20 billion. It would make a heck of a lot more sense to have productive people in society instead of them living on the streets. I know some of you are still yelling at the screen at me, but the thing is that I really want to help people and I don't want to see anybody living on the streets. Now, another thing that was in this article that I really want you to pay attention to was the fact that even though you still may think $20 billion is way too much, it actually costs the government $35,578 per homeless person that lives on the street. That means all the services that they try to provide for people, cleaning up after them, putting them in jails, $35,000. To put a homeless person into permanent housing only costs $12,800. It would actually save money in the short term and in the long term, because again, you'll be having more productive people entering into the workforce that have a roof over their head. They feel more secure that they can live a regular life just like everybody else. So I know if you think of like big cities, they're not going to have the ability to build housing. It's just not even possible. But every time you build a brand new sky-rise building, you can put those affordable housing options in there. Not only that, if you go into some other cities that aren't as nearly as big as, let's just say, New York City, there is numerous malls throughout the country that are literally crumbling because nobody's using them anymore. Even our local mall here, we've had two. We have one that's still running, kinda, and then we have another one that sat there vacant forever and they finally just tore it down. That could have easily been turned into affordable housing options. And because where they're located at, that would have been really close for people to find public transit so they could get to jobs, local jobs. Where some of these malls are located, it could be walking distance to a job. So instead of letting these buildings sit there and rot vacant, why don't we turn them into affordable housing options? I've said it many times. You could even make some of the areas at the top the apartments, and then the bottom you could still make into a mall with a whole food court area. And the people that are living in those apartments could work at the food court down below. It makes a lot of sense. And I also said that it could be also used as affordable housing options for elderly people, just like the lady that we had seen earlier. We can do better. We really can do better. So let me know, have you been seeing a lot more homeless people and homeless camps in your area? Even if it's in a rural area, I'd really like to know. Let me know in the comments section below. To watch more videos about the affordability crisis here in the United States, which is truly the catalyst to homelessness, go ahead and click this video right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters.